Ahoy there, it's the Metal. How you doing? Going out for another nightly walk because it's actually comfortable right now. It's a nice 84 degrees, which maybe for some people any other time of the year that would sound horribly warm. But, you know, given the fact that it's Texas, it's summertime, and I have no AC normally, this actually feels swell. It's like, by comparison, it feels like a nice 60-degree day during the fall or something like that. But enough about that. Walking around, if you know me, if you've been following this for a while, if you watch any of my other shows or whatever, which, if you're watching this now, you probably do, because there's only like a handful of people that actually watch me, and they watch like all of my stuff. But if you know me, you know I have this really bad problem of trying to juggle multiple projects all at the same time, all the time. And it's not even that I can't focus on one project at a time, which I know is one of the reasons a lot of people do it. I fall into camp 2, where I don't want to focus on one problem because there's too many things I want to do. Which some people actually fall into both camps. And I'm not going to say it's entirely just the last one, but it's like 90% the last one. 10% of like, I'm trying to keep myself busy. But one of the projects I've been trying to juggle, I did a lot of market research on first, and now I'm actually in the pre-production phase, or I guess early production phase. Market research would be pre-production to some degree. Is a magazine, which is part of X Dynamis Chaos. I'm trying to basically take the website that I already treat like a digital magazine and do a actual physical print magazine that is 96 pages long, right? So with the covers, it's 100. Don't think I've talked about that on this channel before. It's not the main point I'm getting at here. But yeah, I'm going to turn into a magazine. It'll be fun. It'll have comics. It'll have a featured pulp in there. It'll have a few other random article or inset pages, editorial stuff. And as I'm going in and preparing this magazine, which I have the base pages for the featured pulp pretty much done and set up for me to put the images in their spots when those images are finally made. And I'm going and I'm adjusting some of the other comics, like the shorts and stuff that are going in there. I realized that I have to actually draw some fresh pages and stuff for this, right? And I'm going to my large sketchbook that I also use for commissions, all right? It is roughly the same proportions of a magazine page, because a magazine page is roughly the same proportions of a sheet of printer paper, right? And your standard size paper, 8.5 by 11, except the magazine page before the trim will be about taking a 1/4 inch off of that, so it's actually like 8.25 by 10 3/4, and then you'll be taking off basically another 1/4 inch after trim, right? So it's about 8 by 10.5. But proportionately, it's still roughly the same size. Like, you can work on that. And when I did the math to find out, my 14 by 11 sketchbook pages are only about, I think, 1/2 inch too wide, right? Easy to trim off. And I'm trying to like set these pages up for the trim and everything, and I realize something really important. I've been through a lot of moves. I don't have all the equipment I've always had, and one thing that I'm missing is a straight edge, a ruled, marked straight edge that is long enough to mark up a page that big, right? I haven't needed one that big for quite a while. So I'm sitting here, I'm trying to set it up. I could still mark off points, right, from the edge that I can go across. That's still pretty easy to do with any size ruler. So I go and I set all the marks at this larger size. They're about 1/2 inch from each other to set up the trims and margins. And then I have nothing, I can't go across. It's not long enough to go across. And I had to pull out the largest, pretty much straight thing that will not bend on me that I have in my room, which happens to only be an English longsword. It's the only thing that I had that could fit the job. And I'm like, okay, I'll do that this time. But I really, really would just prefer to have something that has both markings on it for measurement and is long enough to go across, so I don't have to switch tools and bust out a longsword every single time I want to strike up a page. So tomorrow, I guess, maybe I'll run over here, that Walmart in the background when it's open, see if they have a ruler that's like a cubit long. I don't know if they'll have one that's a cubit long. I might have to go to some other store because this is just a neighborhood market. This might have school supplies or whatever, but they don't typically have art supplies here. So I might even just want to go literally anywhere else first. And if I had known this, if I had realized that I didn't have a straight edge long enough to grid up a piece of paper that big, I actually would have just picked it up when I was at the Super Walmart the other day with my brother, because they definitely would have had a ruler that big. And I'm kicking myself in the butt. It's, I hate it. But it's fun. Obviously, it's better to work on pages that big. I like things that look bad, or I wouldn't say look bad. I like things that look simplistic, right? There's a certain like aesthetic to low fidelity, right? There's high fidelity, low fidelity. I like a rather low fidelity aesthetic, and sometimes I will even work on higher fidelity like files in a way that achieves a low fidelity aesthetic. Example, for the main comic of X Dynamis Chaos, I draw all of the pages on printer paper, but I still work on all the files at like 600 dpi, so like the length of the file, or the height of the file, is around 6,300 pixels. So I'm working on a rather large file that looks small by the time you're done with it. Obviously I have to shrink that down because we only print at 300 dpi, so pixel height and width are going to be about half the size by the time we're done. But that's how the aesthetic I like for a lot of things. But if I'm doing the magazine, we're trying to actually go for a higher fidelity aesthetic. And because we're going for a higher fidelity aesthetic, I need to work on larger paper so that I can get finer, more detailed lines that aren't just blotting at the edges into this very lightweight paper that bleeds a lot easier. It's not the only thing that I use more precise methods for. I use this heavyweight sketchboard for more of the manga-based stuff I do, like Realms and Relics and On Tour with Mitch and Standy are all done on a slightly bigger, grittier, toothy, because I still want a gritty feel, but it's like a higher fidelity gritty feel. But no, this is it's not how I'm doing it for anything that I draw originally for this magazine. It's on a much higher quality, more professional paper. And I don't have the tools for that. I need to get them. Well, I mean, I guess I have some of the tools. Like I've got ink pens that I use for everything. I've got pencils. I've got. I actually have a curve. One of my favorite tools that I have as an artist is that I have an adjustable curve, which most people hate adjustable curves that I've talked to. And it's probably because most of the adjustable curves they've ever had suck. And if you're not an artist, you're probably wondering, what the hell is an adjustable curve? It's exactly what it sounds like, right? So typically what artists will use is they will get something called a French curve, which is I guess it's almost the golden ratio. It's probably the golden ratio, but it's a curve that you use, and it looks almost like a teardrop that gives you almost like a direct circle on one end, but it gets wider and wider as it goes out. So you have basically every angle of a curve. I guess that's the way to say it. There's no actual angles in a curve, but you'd probably be using tangent and connecting points to measure the curve based on an angle. But even then, your tightness or looseness of the curve too, I guess that's another way of putting it. But even then, you only have it at that one size of whatever the point of your French curve you're on to get those angles. With an adjustable curve, you can make whatever curve you want at any time because it adjusts. It's like this almost rubbery thing that has a metal block inside that's bendable, malleable, and you can just kind of twist it and get however precise or loose of a curve you want, or tight or loose. And most people hate them because most of them suck. The one I have for some reason doesn't. So I'm guessing there can be a big quality difference in your adjustable curves. Mine came with a really nice, fancy, like calligraphy set or something like that. Where I have I don't know if calligraphy is the word, but it's an inking set, like an actual pen set, quills they use an inkstand with, and I guess it's a form of calligraphy. But I got it with that. It was very, very nice. It was gifted to me by this very dear family that I knew back at a church that I used to be very tight with. They needed to go away for extended period because they were like missionaries. I watched their house for them a few times, and the mother of the family gave me this very expensive set that she had, asking me if I would use it, which I have several times. Not very often because there's a lot of upkeep using quilt pens with actual nibs, but I've used them. More than that, I've used the tools that came with the set, including that adjustable curve. And it still holds its shape. You have to put a little force into it to get it to curve to your different shapes. And that's probably what makes it good, is the fact that you actually have to put some pressure on it. But after I make a curve, it'll sit there until I touch it. I can run my hand across it, everything, run the pen right by it, and it'll work. I've used it on several things. Actually, I think I used it most recently when I was making realms and relics a few years ago. So I haven't used it in a while, but it's big. It's actually pretty long. I think it'd be usable on a paper that size, but I can't keep it straight, right? Because it's a curve. So it doesn't work for the thing that I'm complaining about right now. You know, artist things. But that's it. I actually kind of wish that I could have just walked to the store now, but ever since stupid COVID happened, there are very few places that are open 24/7. It's probably better that places aren't actually open 24/7, like just in general, in the way you treat employees and stuff like that. But there just aren't any around, and I'm a night owl. Like this is 3-ish o'clock. It's probably like 3:30 by the time that I'm done recording this, and it's nice and cool. And I would have enjoyed a walk to going to some store that was open that could have sold me a cubit long straight edge. And that 18 inches? Yeah, 1.5 feet. I'm sure 1.5 feet rulers are everywhere. I've seen them. But nonetheless, I can't. I cannot. I just have to go back home, finish my walk, and deal with it until tomorrow, where I'm very likely going to have to walk in the heat of the day to find a place that sells this. That's my life. Anyway, enough bitching for me. I will see you guys later. Take it easy.